Growing up in our small one-story house, I quickly learned that my sister, Emma, was different or special, as my parents liked to say. I was 7 when she was born, and from that moment on, everything in our home revolved around her fragile health. "Kelly, close that window right now," Mom would yell from downstairs. "Your sister might catch a cold." This was the daily routine in our house, a constant reminder that keeping Emma safe and healthy was the most important thing for everyone. I first realized how different our roles were when I was 13. Emma had just started elementary school, and one day, she came home with a runny nose. It wasn't serious, but you'd think it was something much worse based on my parents' reaction. "This is your fault, Kelly." Dad's words hit me like a knife. "You must have left the door open too long when you left for school this morning." I wanted to say that Emma probably caught it from one of her classmates, like any normal kid would. But I knew better than to argue. Instead, I just nodded and accepted my punishment, being grounded for the weekend. That same year, Mom started giving me more chores. While other kids played after school, I was learning how to dust furniture, vacuum carpets, and even do the laundry. "But Mom, why doesn't Emma have to help?" I asked one day, watching my sister relax on the couch, glued to the TV, while I folded a mountain of clothes. Mom's answer was quick and firm. "Your sister has a weak immune system, Kelly. The doctors say she shouldn't overwork herself. Besides, you're already so good at these things." And that's how life went. If something needed to be done, I did it. If something went wrong, it was my fault. When Emma got a bad grade in math in 3rd grade, Dad grounded me for a week because I should have helped her study better. When she broke Mom's favorite coffee mug, I got blamed for not watching her closely enough. No matter what happened, I was always the one who had to take the fall. I remember one time that really frustrated me. Emma was 11 and I was 17. She took my favorite sweater without asking and spilled juice all over it. When I told Mom, she just sighed and said, "Kelly, you should have kept it somewhere she couldn't reach. You know how careless she is." That was the moment I started dreaming about college, about getting away. I focused completely on my studies because I knew that education was my way out. Whenever I felt angry about how unfair things were at home, I used that energy to study harder. My teachers noticed my effort, and my grades were excellent. But at home, even my success was used to make Emma look better. "See how easy it is for Kelly?" Mom would tell Emma. "You just need to try harder, sweetie." But Emma never had to try harder. There was always an excuse for why she couldn't do things, and I was always expected to pick up the slack. The day I graduated high school, everything changed. I had already accepted that college wasn't in my future. We didn't have much money, and I assumed any savings would go toward Emma's education. I had been looking at job listings, planning to work at a local diner while taking a few communities college classes. That evening, after the graduation ceremonies, Mom and Dad called me into the living room. Emma was on the couch as usual, playing on her phone. "Kelly, sit down," Dad said, his voice more serious than usual. "We need to talk about your future." My stomach tightened. Here it comes, I thought. The lecture about responsibility, about helping the family, about putting my dreams on hold. Mom reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "We've been saving," she said, sliding it across the coffee table. "Since you were little." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a bank statement with my name on it, enough money to pay for 5 years at a state college. But I thought. I stammered, looking at them in shock. "We can see how hard you work," Mom said, glancing briefly at Emma, who was pretending not to listen. "And, Emma, well, college might not be in her future. We thought this money would be better spent on you." I was speechless. For the first time in my life, I was getting something that Emma wasn't. It felt strange, almost wrong after all these years. But then Dad's tone changed. "We need you to promise us something," he said, leaning forward, his elbows on his knees. "When you finish college and get a good job, you'll help the family. Don't forget about your sister." "Of course," I said quickly, still too shocked to process everything. "I promise," I said. Emma suddenly got up and stormed out of the room, slamming her door behind her. Mom sighed but didn't go after her, which was surprising. Usually, they would rush to comfort her no matter what. That fall, I packed my bags and left for state college, 3 states away. The distance felt like freedom. For the first time in my life, I could open windows without worrying about someone catching a cold. I could study without being interrupted to do chores or babysit Emma. 3 months before graduation, I got an offer I couldn't turn down, a job at Fidelity Investments, one of the top firms in the city. The salary was great and the opportunity was too good to pass up. When I told my parents, they actually took it well and didn't pressure me to come back home. I found a nice apartment near my office and settled into my new life. I called home every weekend, keeping in touch. Our conversations mostly revolved around Emma, how she was still trying to find herself after high school. She wasn't working, wasn't in college, just existing. But for the first time, I wasn't expected to fix it. For years into my job, Mom called with that voice, the one she used when she wanted something. I was reviewing reports when my phone lit up with her name. "Kelly, honey," she said sweetly. "You know Emma's been struggling to find a job." I closed my eyes, already knowing where this was going. "Your company is so successful," she continued. "Couldn't you put in a good word for your sister? Maybe help her get a job there? She's very smart, you know." My stomach tightened. How could I explain that Emma, who had never worked a day in her life and hadn't gone to college, wouldn't even pass the first round of applications at a firm like Fidelity Investments? "Well," I said carefully, "we do have some openings. Let me send over the applications so Emma can check the requirements." That evening, I forwarded the standard application to Emma's email. The job description was clear. Bachelor's degree required. Proficiency in SAP and Oracle systems. Fluent in one language, English. Minimum 6 years of relevant experience preferred. After that, Mom never brought up Emma getting a job at my company again. Life moved on. I worked hard, got promoted twice, and started saving up. I even began thinking about buying my own place. No more rent, just a home of my own. 3 years later, I decided to visit home for the first time in months. When I pulled up to the house, it looked smaller than I remembered. I noticed the paint peeling in some places. Emma was still living there, stretched out on the same couch, scrolling through her phone, just like when we were teenagers. Over dinner, I shared my plans. "I've been saving up," I said, pushing my peas around my plate. "I'm thinking about buying an apartment. The market is good right now, and with my credit score, I could get a decent mortgage rate." The table went silent. Mom and Dad exchanged glances, and Emma suddenly became very focused on her mashed potatoes. A week later, Mom called me. This time, her voice sounded different. Worried, almost desperate. "Kelly, honey, we need to talk," she said. "Your father isn't doing well. His back is acting up again, and he can't take those extra shifts at work anymore." I listened as she listed all their struggles. The leaking roof, the old plumbing, the walls that needed repainting. Every problem came with a price. "We're barely getting by," she said, her voice shaking. "And after all we did for you, the college money, giving you a chance at a better life, now it's time for you to help your family, Kelly." There it was, the reminder of my debt to them. The promise I had made all those years ago. With every word she spoke, my dream of buying my own apartment felt further and further away. After that call, I spent several nights lying awake, thinking. Guilt weighed on me. Here I was, planning to buy my own place while my parents couldn't even afford to fix their roof. Finally, I made a decision. One that would change everything. I called Mom back on a Friday morning. "I've been thinking about what you said," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "I want to help. I'm going to give you access to my account. You can use up to $2,000 a month. That should cover repairs and help with bills." There was a long silence. For a moment, I thought we had lost connection. Then Mom finally spoke, her voice filled with emotion. "Kelly, that's so generous. It's such a big amount. We probably won't even need that much, just enough for basic repairs and some groceries." I helped her set up the access on her phone. "Just remember the limit," I reminded her. $2,000 a month. Of course," she assured me. "We'll be very careful with it." At first, everything went smoothly. I was busy with work and didn't check my account often. When I did take a quick look, everything seemed fine. The withdrawals were small, $750 here, $850 there, mostly from hardware stores, grocery shops, and utility payments. It looked like Mom was using the money responsibly, just as she had promised. But then, things started to change. The amount slowly increased, $950 one month, $1,200 the next. I told myself not to worry. After all, they were still under the limit and home repairs could be expensive. Then came the notification that changed everything. I was in a meeting when my phone buzzed. It was an alert I had set up for large purchases. One charge at Luxe Boutique. I nearly dropped my phone. That couldn't be right. As soon as the meeting ended, I pulled up my account details. There it was, clear as day, a $2,500 purchase at one of the most expensive clothing stores in their area. I stared at the screen in disbelief. I had never even shopped there myself. With my goal of saving for an apartment, I couldn't imagine spending that much on clothes. My hands were shaking as I dialed Mom's number. Mom, I just got a notification about a $2,500 purchase at Luxe Boutique, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. What's going on? There was a pause, then a nervous laugh. Oh, that? Well, you know my birthday is next month, she said, her voice overly cheerful. I saw this absolutely gorgeous dress, and I thought, well, I've been feeling so down lately with all our troubles. I just wanted to treat myself a little. I took a deep breath. Okay, I said, trying to avoid an argument. Just please stick to the limit we agreed on. Of course, honey, she said quickly. Then, as if nothing had happened, she added, by the way, I'm still looking forward to my birthday present from you. You haven't forgotten, have you? I hung up and stared at my screen. Something didn't feel right. This wasn't just about a dress. It was about something bigger, something I wasn't seeing yet. From that moment, I started checking my account more often. I set up detailed alerts, so I could see every transaction. What I found made my stomach turn. Mom had completely ignored the $2,000 limit like it didn't even exist. One month, she spent $2,500, then $3,000. Before I knew it, some months were hitting $4,500. My savings, the money I had worked so hard for, the money meant for my own home, was disappearing. One evening, after seeing yet another large withdrawal, I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I opened my laptop and pulled up my account. Then, I created a spreadsheet. The numbers didn't lie. In just a few months, my parents had spent more than I had in an entire year. My own monthly expenses were simple: rent, utilities, groceries, and an occasional dinner with coworkers. I drove a used car, bought clothes on sale, and packed my lunch most days. Meanwhile, my parents were supposedly spending thousands. But on what? I needed to see for myself. I picked up my phone and called Mom. Mom, I'm thinking of coming home next weekend, I said casually. It'll be nice to celebrate your birthday in person. And I'd love to see that dress you bought. Plus, you can show me all the repairs you've done on the house. Silence. Then, Mom spoke, but her voice sounded different, sharper, almost nervous. Oh no, honey, don't come. She said it too quickly. I'm not really celebrating my birthday this year. I'm not feeling up to it. I frowned. But Mom, I haven't been home in months. I really want to. No. She cut me off. Then, just as quickly, her voice softened. It's just not a good time, Kelly. But you can mail my birthday gift if you'd like. That call set off every alarm in my head. That night, I stayed up late, going through 7 months of bank statements, line by line. The more I looked, the less sense it made. There were charges from stores I knew Mom would never shop at. Restaurants that stayed open until 3 a.m. bars I had never heard of. The so-called home repairs were there, but they were tiny in comparison. $200 at Home Depot, $250 at a plumbing supply store. Meanwhile, thousands had been spent at expensive boutiques, jewelry stores, and electronic shops. Someone had even bought a $1,300 smartphone last month. That made no sense. Mom still used the same old flip phone, always saying she didn't need anything fancy. Then, the pattern became clear, like a blurry picture coming into focus. Teenage bars, nightclubs, designer clothing stores, makeup shops. nail salons. These weren't the expenses of struggling parents barely making ends meet. These were the expenses of someone else. Someone young. Someone who liked to party. Someone with expensive taste. Someone without a job.
Emma.
The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. All those times Mom had talked about the leaking roof and the broken plumbing. All those guilt trips about helping the family. It had all been a cover. My parents weren't using my money to fix their home. They were using it to fund Emma's extravagant lifestyle. I felt sick. I scrolled through transaction after transaction. A $350 spa day. A $550 shopping spree at a designer outlet. $250 bar tabs, multiple times a week. This was why Mom didn't want me to visit. There were no major repairs to see. No home improvements to show off. Just Emma, living the high life on my money, while I struggled, saved, and put off my own dreams. The next morning, I paced around my apartment, rehearsing what I would say. My phone felt heavy in my hand. Finally, around noon, I made the call. "Mom," I said as soon as she answered, my voice steadier than I felt. "We need to talk about where my money is really going." Silence. Then, finally, "What do you mean, honey?" I took a deep breath. "I think you know exactly what I mean. The bars. The designer clothes. The new smartphone. Those aren't your expenses, are they? They're Emma's." I heard her inhale sharply. Then, she let out a long sigh. When she spoke again, her voice was different. No more sweet talk, no more pretending. "Well, what did you expect?" she said defensively. "We're family. Emma needs nice things too. It's not her fault she hasn't found her path yet." "Mom, you lied to me," I said, my hands gripping the phone. "You told me the money was for house repairs." "We did use some of it for repairs," she shot back. "But Kelly, you have so much, and Emma has so little. Besides, you owe us. Or have you forgotten who paid for your fancy college education?" I almost laughed. I had been expecting this, the ultimate guilt trip. But this time I was ready. "Actually, Mom, I ran the numbers last night. Every single expense for the past 3 years. I pulled up my spreadsheet. In the past 30 months, you've spent $75,000 of my money. That's more than what you and Dad paid for my college tuition, plus interest. So no, I don't owe you anything anymore." Silence. Then, without another word, Mom hung up. I sat there, my heart pounding. Almost on autopilot, I opened YouTube and typed Emma's name into the search bar. I hadn't checked her profile in months. I'd been too busy working, too focused on my own life. Now, as I scrolled, my anger grew with every swipe. There she was, posing in the $2,500 dress from Luxe Boutique, the one Mom had claimed was for her birthday. There she was at a resort last month, lounging by a pool with a cocktail in hand. Parties. Clubs. Restaurants. One after another, I recognized places from my own bank statements. She was even wearing the expensive jewelry I unknowingly paid for. I needed more information. So, I called Aunt Laura, the one person in the family who always told the truth. The only one who never bought into the Emma can do no wrong story. "Aunt Laura?" I said, my voice shaking. "I need to know the truth." "I need to ask you something," I said. "Have you been to my parents' house lately? Have they done any repairs?" Aunt Laura let out a bitter laugh. "Repairs? The only thing that's changed is that the house is falling apart. Your father won't even fix the broken step on the front porch." My heart sank. "Why do you ask?" she added. I took a deep breath and told her everything. The money I had been sending, the so-called home repairs. With each word, Aunt Laura's sighs grew heavier. "Oh, Kelly," she said finally, "that money isn't going to repairs. Emma doesn't work. She doesn't even look for a job anymore. She just parties all the time." She hesitated. Then, her voice turned serious. "And now she's trying to drag my Jessica into that lifestyle, too. Keeps inviting her to these wild parties, telling her how fun it is to live free and easy." My stomach was already in knots. But what she said next made my blood run cold. "There's something else you need to know," Aunt Laura continued, her voice dropping. "Jessica told me this in confidence, but you have to hear it. Emma's been showing people a letter of recommendation, supposedly from you. She says she interned at your company under your supervision. I froze. What? Jessica saw it. It has your signature and everything. Emma is planning to use it to apply at Connolly Partners. The room started spinning. A forged letter of recommendation. With my signature. If Emma got caught, and she would get caught, it wouldn't just be her in trouble. It would be me. My company. Everything I had worked for could be ruined. I ended the call with Aunt Laura and immediately dialed Connolly Partners' HR department. My hands were shaking as I explained. I need to report a fraudulent letter of recommendation, I said. My sister is applying for a position using a forged letter in my name. I never wrote it, never signed it, and she has never worked at my company. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, my phone exploded with calls from my parents. When I finally answered, Mom's screaming voice nearly burst my eardrum. How dare you sabotage your sister's career, she shrieked. She was about to get that job at Connolly Partners. Mom, she forged my signature? I shot back. She was finally trying to make something of herself. Mom continued, acting like none of that mattered. I hadn't even spoken, and you ruined it. You've always been jealous of her. I heard shuffling, then Dad's voice came on the line. He sounded angrier than I'd ever heard him. Emma has been crying for 3 days straight because of you, he growled. Is that what you wanted? To hurt your sister? Well, congratulations. You're no daughter of mine. Consider yourself disowned. I gripped the phone tighter. Dad, she committed fraud. He cut me off, his voice cold and sharp. If you ever want us to forgive you, you'll need to start sending us more money. A lot more than before. Maybe then, someday, we might consider forgiving you for what you've done to your sister. That was the last straw. Years of guilt, manipulation, and unfair treatment crashed over me. And suddenly, everything became crystal clear. No, I said firmly. I don't owe you anything anymore. I helped you out of love, and you lied to me. If you need money so badly, why don't you ask Emma? She's the one you've been spending it all on anyway. Before they could respond, I hung up. My hands were shaking as I opened my banking app. Without hesitation, I revoked my mother's access to my account, permanently. As I pressed the confirmation button, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. And at the same time, a new one settle in my stomach. I knew what was coming. The calls started the next morning. How could you do this to us? Mom's voice screeched through my voicemail. After everything we've done for you, you selfish. I deleted the message. Emma's voice came next. You think you're so much better than everyone else with your fancy job and your perfect life. I didn't listen to the rest. I deleted that one too. But the messages kept coming, day after day. Texts, voicemails, emails, all filled with insults, guilt trips, and demands to give them back access to my money. Each one angrier and more desperate than the last. I blocked their numbers. Then they started calling from different phones. I blocked those too. A week into the madness, Aunt Laura called. Kelly, honey, she said gently. I just wanted to warn you. Your parents are calling everyone in the family, telling them what a terrible daughter you are. How you abandoned them in their time of need. She sighed. I know the truth, and so does Jessica. We've tried telling them they're wrong, but they won't listen. I just wanted you to know what they're doing. That was 4 months ago. Now, my life has settled into a new normal. My savings account is growing again. It's amazing how fast money adds up when no one is draining it from you. I've started seriously looking at apartments, going to viewings on weekends. Last week, I even met with a mortgage advisor. The calls have mostly stopped. Though I still get the occasional message from a new number, I don't bother reading them anymore. I just delete them. Sometimes I wonder about my parents. Is Dad's back really getting worse? Is Mom still covering for Emma's reckless spending? Did Emma ever try forging someone else's signature? Or is she still living the high life off someone else's money? But mostly, I focus on my own life. I work. I save. I spend time with friends who value me for who I am, not for what I can give them. I'm learning to let go of guilt and to put myself first. Will I ever speak to my family again? I honestly don't know. Maybe someday things will change. Maybe one day, they'll understand what they did wrong. Or maybe, I'll find it in my heart to forgive them, even if they never apologize. But for now, I'm focused on building the life I want, one that isn't weighed down by guilt, obligation, or other people's expectations.